And greetings and welcome to the QCast. This is season 5, episode 54, and we're coming off an incredible championship weekend in Fort Wayne. We've given it about 5 days since coming back, a little time to settle in. And congratulations to the Trinity Bantams on winning the men's basketball national championship. An incredible weekend, incredible performance by a bunch of tough kids who really defend and play great together. Really excited to have one of those players from Trinity with me today on the QCast to talk about that whole weekend, the season. Great way to wrap this up. And that's the most outstanding player of men's basketball championship weekend, Henry Vetter, a 6'5 junior guard from Trinity College. Henry, it's probably been a whirlwind. So first of all, congratulations. Thank you for coming on the QCast. What's this all been like since cutting down the nets in Fort Wayne and coming back home?
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Bob. Yeah, it's been great. I mean, obviously, there's no better feeling. I think when coach said the best when we got back, like he didn't even know what to do because we ended our season on a win, and that just that doesn't happen. Every other team ends on a loss normally, so it's just a surreal feeling for all of us on the team. I mean, it's something we've never experienced, obviously, but also our families and close friends, people of the program. It's just amazing. It's just a great accomplishment for the school and our program, but also for all our supporters. I know we had a lot of fun in the hotel after the game, just with
Sure.
families in the lobby. But really everything. I mean, everything's just fun now because, we're champs. So, the bus rides, the plane rides, there's no one sulking or, whatever. Everyone's excited. And it's nice that, spring weather is kind of coming around at this time too. So we had some nice days. When we got back, we were outside a lot. I think our girls lacrosse team had a game and a bunch of their parents were showing love to the team and stuff. So yeah, it's just been fun. I mean, a lot of people on campus, obviously a lot of people were tuned in online and stuff, but we also had a ton of people who came to our games when we hosted, 4 tournament
Yeah.
games. And we even had people drive to Wesleyan for the conference championship. So we have a great support cast on campus of fans and definitely feeling the love since we've been back.
I got to ask you too, we talk about Division 3 and YD3 and the fact that you guys are true student athletes, student first, and that's why we love Division 3. What's it been like balancing the academic side with this run through the NCAA tournament and the championship weekend, everything that you're is demanding on of your time? What's it been like to balance the books, Henry, with all of that stuff on the court?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely not always easy. You definitely I mean, I like to think that, you have a clear mind, you play a little bit better on the court. So definitely trying to, stay away from, doing stressful stuff on game day or the day before a game and really just, stay comfortable and, peaceful. But, definitely just talking to professors is a big thing. I think part of the advantage of a smaller school like Trinity is just smaller classes. I've had professors who have been around for who I've taken their classes the last 2 or 3 years. So I've come to form a good relationship with some of my professors. And like I said, a lot of people on campus were tuned in and stuff. So I think just asking for a little leeway hasn't been the worst thing in the world. But yeah, like you said, it's really just, taking advantage of some free time early in the week. Honestly, especially with the tournament when we were hosting, those Thursday, the Thursday before and the Wednesday before, you only get 90 minutes of practice. So that honestly, that it was like gave me more time to do homework because otherwise I'd be in there shooting and
Right.
whatnot. But we only got 90 minutes on the court. So I was kind of limited to how much time I could actually spend in the gym, which is funny. But yeah, like I said, I mean, it is a little bit difficult at times, especially when I said you just want to focus on the game. But I think, being in a school like Trinity where the professors really care about the students and, are really in tune, like I said, like I've had a ton of professors congratulate me and our team. And so that they all know what's going on, they've stayed in
Right.
loop. So I think they want to help just as much as the next person.
Uh, I want to talk a little bit about your background before we get into this season. You grew up in Wicker Park, so you're a Chicago guy. I'm from the South Side. You move up to like the north suburbs. Kenilworth, I think, is what your
Yep.
roster says. You play 2 years at New Trier, and then you go prep school at Canterbury School, which is in New Milford,
Yep.
Connecticut. Um, talk a little bit. Talk about that path, if you would, Henry. Like, how did you go from New Trier to Canterbury? How do you go from Canterbury to picking Trinity? I think people would be
Yeah.
interested to know that.
Well, I had an interesting experience at New Trier. I actually didn't play basketball my sophomore year at New Trier. I didn't make the team. my sophomore year, the sophomore team that was, and there was a lot of kids. So I didn't play. I like literally was like not playing
Sure.
basketball. And at that point, I think it was just I needed a new environment, change of direction. It was just tough. I didn't play basketball. A ton of my friends were on the team, so I'm still great friends with a ton of guys from that high school, and still to this day, some of my best friends. But I think after that, it was just kind of a down year for me, and so I just kind of looked to change directions and give myself new opportunity. And my dad had previously gone to prep school out in Connecticut, Canterbury School where I went, so I had already had that connection there. And so I took a visit, and they had a really strong basketball program with a really well-respected coach, Coach Bodenay. It was a phenomenal coach there, but yeah, I mean, really great program. I walked in my sophomore year. I repeated, so I did another sophomore year, and we were like 25-2, won the class. Our point guard was Trey Alexander, who plays at Pace. He was a Division II All-American this
Sure.
year. Really, just a really with ton of college players on that team. And then, yeah, I mean, it's kind of stayed there for a couple years and kept working. And then, um, yeah, it's probably like an hour from Trinity, New Milford is maybe an hour 20. And Trevor McDonald, who's one of my current Trinity teammates, he went to Canterbury with me as well, and he had already committed to Trinity the summer going into our senior year. And obviously their coach Cosgrove and the assistant at the time, Coach Witter, had come a good amount to see Trevor play.
Right.
I had started to play well, so I was kind of on their radar. And then, yeah, as the season went on, I started talking to Trinity more. Obviously, I knew Trevor, and that was kind of cool because Trevor was obviously one of my teammates and close friends, and someone who I trusted. So him kind of just talking about Trinity definitely put a good thought in my mind, and obviously I knew he was going there, so it made it seem a little more friendly. And then I came on a few visits. Trevor and I would come up here, play with the team a couple times in the spring. And yeah, it was just a really good experience. I like the community. I like Coach Cosgrove.
Sure.
And he had a good connection with my high school coach, Coach Bowden, previously. And yeah, from there I kind of just, like I said, I enjoyed the atmosphere. I thought Coach Cosgrove was a great coach, and wanted to do great things, and win games, which I was a fan of. So I definitely made that decision, and it's worked well.
We talked a little bit off here about AAU. You played for Fundamental U, and so being a Chicago guy, Fundamental U, like you know some of these kind of Midwest D3 Hooper kids. Like
Yeah.
it's a small universe of people. Just talk a little bit about like some of those dudes that you've been hooping with
So
Fundamental U.
totally. Well, your guys at Illinois Wesleyan, Carlo and Josh, but I think something that was cool for me. Um, what Yogi Olaf was one of my
Yeah,
teammates, and he plays at WashU. He's a good friend of mine. Again, I work out with him in the summer, and even Ryan Cohen, who's also on WashU. We didn't play fundamental together, but he's from that North Shore area,
yeah.
and we work out a good amount in the summer. So it was cool. It was honestly cool, traveling from Connecticut to Fort Wayne and seeing some guys that I work out with back home, and or I know I've played on the weekends with. And yeah, like you said, there is a lot of connections there where so many people.
Getting into to the games a little bit. The first game, the national semifinal, your matchup with your NESCAC rival Wesleyan. They won the league 10-0. You guys were 2 games back, 8-2, but you won at their place in the conference tournament. So you came into this thing as the automatic qualifier.
Hmm.
So you knew that you could beat them. Obviously, you knew them very well. They know you very well. You get that matchup. You win that thing by, I believe that was a 4 point win, 73 69,
69.
right? Talk about like that was a tough game. That
Yeah.
was a gritty game. Talk about the win over Wesleyan in that national semi Thursday.
Yeah, well, we obviously, like you said, we played them. They beat us at our place in the regular season, and then we got them back. So it was kind of like the rubber match they were saying. And yeah, I mean, a team we know well, obviously. Their coach Joe Riley actually went to Trinity,
Yeah,
um, and they're a good team, and we knew it was going to be a war. And for us, I think a lot of it was, we had gotten to the same game last year, so this felt like an even bigger game because we really wanted to get over that hump.
right.
I just think that, losing the same game 2 years in a row sounds brutal, brutal. So I'm glad we got over that hump, and I think it allowed us to play a little more free and easy in the next game, even. But yeah, they're a really good team, and I think we knew. both games in, the regular season and the conference tournament, they were kind of just rock fights, teams
Yeah.
where kind of who can make some plays at the end of the game. It's going to come down to a few possessions. So we kind of knew we had to rebound the ball first and foremost. I mean, they're a pretty paint heavy team. They got some players who can make plays. But I think for our game plan, we kind of wanted to force them to make tough shots over us and then rebound the ball and then look to get out in transition, which has kind of been our MO all year, honestly. That goes for any game, honestly. But especially Wesleyan, I think they got a lot of guys who can get downhill and kind of draw guys in the paint and then, kick it out for opportunities. So we kind of just try to limit them driving the ball. And then, like I said, just rebound. I mean, I think that's the biggest thing is just limiting their possessions. You give a team two or three chances to score, chances are they're going to score. I mean, that's,
Right.
two offensive rebounds, they make one, 33% isn't great, but they're going to score. So really just try to limit them there. And yeah, I mean, it was just a great game back and forth as most Trinity Wesleyan games are. I mean, I know my freshman year we played them. It was well, we lost by like same thing, like 5 point game. Last year we beat them in overtime at their place, and then it was another close game in the quarterfinal. And then this year was the same thing. I mean, they beat us by like 9, we beat them by 8. But they were all like one possession games. So I mean, when Trinity and Wesleyan play, one, it's going to be a good game, but it's most likely going to be a pretty tight contest.
Then you get NYU. So NYU beats WashU. I thought NYU looked incredible in that WashU game. And
Yeah,
it was the first time I had seen them play in person this year. And I was blown away by, they just have no weakness. They have great post size. They're athletic. They have size across the board, elite guard play. And so you're going into that game with this high powered offensive team that I think came in averaging like 81 points a game.
yeah.
Um, what was the thought, kind of the game plan heading into that NYU national championship matchup then Saturday?
Yeah, well, I think one, like I said, the win over Wesleyan was big just to give us, like, look, we got over the hump from last year. We're giving ourselves a chance to play for a championship. All we really got to do is just go out and compete for 40 minutes, win, lose, or draw. That's going to be a win for us. You get to that game and you go out and compete, leave it all out there. You have no sad thoughts at the end of the day. But yeah, I think they're obviously a really good team. I remember someone asked me in the media, like, who would you compare them to? And I said us, just because, we might not have as good post scoring as them, but I think in terms of, they got a lot of guys who can do different things,
Yeah,
both shooting it and scoring it down low. And I feel like the same for us is, we're a deep team and we got guys who, when you go on that scouting report, you got to look over every guy because
yeah,
everyone can do something different and, brings a different aspect to our team. So I think, going into that game, what we wanted to do was, one, limit their paint touches. You give guys like, Tristan Howe and those other guys touches on the block, that's where they want to score.
yeah,
You make them work for it by trying to back you down from the 3 point line or stuff. They're going to get theirs, but, it's a little bit harder that way. And then, again, like I said, kind of our MO all year is, make them take tough shots over us, rebound the ball, and then look to go out in transition. I think that's one area where we knew, I think that's one of their weaker areas as a team is I don't think they're a phenomenal transition defense team. They can score it inside and they can rebound it, but sometimes they're just not as quick in back and getting matched. And I think that's where we, try to get some opportunities with just pushing it on them if we get stops. But like I said, I think for us, it was really more so about our team versus them. I think the way we had been playing all year, but really the tournament, leading in like the 5 games, 6 games before that, from the NESCAC tournament to the NCAA tournament, we had just been playing really well as a team, offensively and defensively. I think we had been scoring it, better than we had earlier in the year. But we were getting stops. I mean, I think we held like Western New England in the Sweet 16 game to like 13 points in the
yeah.
first half. And we kind of knew like, look, if we get stops and we rebound the ball, regardless if we make shots, we're going to be in the game and have a chance to win. And that's kind of what it did because we did not shoot it great from three. I did not shoot it great early on in that game, but a lot of guys really stepped up both offensively. Guys like Jarrel who really
Yeah.
kept us afloat on offense, but I think just defensively as a team, we held them to a season low, and that kind of kept us in the game, gave us a chance, and then, like I said, we made some plays down the stretch to get us the win. But I think, like I said, more so it's just more so about focusing on our team and what we've been doing all year, versus NYU. I mean, they're a good team. They got great players. We knew, they're going to make shots, can't hang your head.
Right.
And they did. Hampton Sanders, great. He made some tough shots.
Oh,
Safety made some tough threes. They got dudes who can do that stuff. But so do we, and we knew that, so we're like, don't worry about them. Let's just play our game, and we'll be the victors.
There was a point there where it seemed like you guys were in trouble. I think it was Hampton Sanders has that and one
Yeah,
play
like a minute 30 left or something like
to go up
that.
four, to go up
Yeah,
four. And I'm going to tell you this, Henry. I should admit this on the QCast is they come to pick up the all tournament ballot with like 2 minutes left on the clock because they got to get this all organized.
yeah,
So you're trying to figure out, okay, I'm going to get two guys from NYU on here and two guys from Trinity, and I'm going to pick someone else from probably Wesleyan or Wash U. I had my
yeah,
ballot ready.
yeah,
I didn't have you on it. I had Jarrel and Drew.
yeah,
And
totally.
then after the guy comes and picks up our ballot, after our guy John Painter JP comes, you come down the floor and you hit that three that takes it from 4-1. So
Yeah,
we'll talk about the next shot in a second, but that's a little bit of the forgotten shot is you getting you if you miss that shot, they
yeah,
rebound. Game's close to over. Talk about like you had not shot it great, like you
yeah,
mentioned, but you
totally.
came down and you hit that three. Talk about that.
Yeah, well, people have been asking me about the last shot. I said the one before it was a tougher shot, honestly. I
Yeah.
mean, it was a way tougher shot. I was kind of coming off a pin down, kind of twisting and turning as I shot. And I mean, it wasn't watching it back on film. It was not a great shot, but I mean, I hit it, so I'll take it. But yeah, I mean, I think that kind of again, that's what I've been saying a lot is just my teammates have such instilled such trust in me to shoot the ball, even when a game when I might not be having it go down all the time. But that's kind of how it goes. I mean, like I said, if I miss however many, I like to think however many are good next, and that's kind of how it is as a shooter. I mean, you got to keep firing. I mean, if you stop firing, that just shows you lack confidence in yourself. And I knew they were going to come. I mean, I thought I got some good looks in the game that I just didn't knock down, but that one was one that I've taken a good amount this year. That's a play that we've run a good amount where I
Right.
kind of get a double pin coming out of the corner. And that time, I saw my defender was trailing me, so I kind of curled it and just let it fly. I saw some space and let it fly. And, that was a big hit, but, we came down and got a huge stop the next possession and then, call timeout and then got to the final possession. But yeah, that I've been telling people that shot
Yeah.
was definitely a harder shot than the one I hit for the game.
Yeah. The one to go from 4-1 was enormous because it felt like after the end one that like you guys were in a lot of trouble at that
Yeah.
point. And so then that possession, the final one, the final offensive possession for you guys where you're down 60-59. So same score from when you hit that shot, I believe.
Yeah.
There's 10 seconds left. And so Will Dorian misses a shot. And
Yeah.
I'd have to look at like Trevor McDonald had his hand on the
Yeah,
ball.
he got the ball and then he got blocked by Freeney and then Drew was there and he got the rebound and then he
Drew
came and
Lazarre
kicked it
gets
out.
it, swings around to you. Also, what people are not looking at a ton is how deep I mean, you were like 8 feet, 7 feet past the 3 point
Yeah.
line, weren't you?
Yeah, well, I mean, definitely it was a little deep. I mean, I'd say for me, I never feel like I'm that deep. Part of my flaw is I do need to step closer. I mean, I should have been close. There was no reason to be out that far. Sometimes though, because I passed it to Will, I started backpedaling on defense, honestly, just in case they got a leak out. And I saw Drew come down with it, so I started just running in. And yeah, I mean, I didn't really know where I was on the floor. I saw that I was open and I let it fly. But that's a shot I practice a lot. Honestly,
Sure.
like before every game, I shoot two from the volleyball line normally from the logo. I make two in a row from there, so I shoot it every day. And like I said, Drew kind of found me in rhythm, and that's a shot I work on all the time. So I kind of expected to make that one.
And I think it felt good off like it looked like you knew that was
Yeah,
dead
well,
on,
yeah.
right?
When I hold my follow through, that I kind of hold my follow through a little accentuated there. When I do that, it normally means it's going in.
um, Talk about like you're a kid growing up hooping, and you got to in a backyard or on a playground thought like this is a shot for the national championship. What was it like in that moment? And I know the game didn't end right there, but
Yeah.
looking back on that, like you hit the shot that won the national championship. What's that like?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, it's something I'll always cherish, and I don't think it's set in quite yet. But I think I just immediately after, I mean, I was just feeling a lot of gratitude, just for the opportunity to take that shot. I mean, like I said, I did not have my best shooting night going into that play. But again, I can't say enough about all my teammates, coaches, even managers, um, for just the energy they brought that whole game. Going into halftime, I got everyone on my side telling me to keep firing. Going towards the bench every time out, got dudes are telling me next one's good, next one's good. And even someone like Drew Lazarre, I mean, he got that rebound, he threw it to me, and he started running back on defense like it was in the basket.
Right.
And so I've said a lot. I mean, I really think that just speaks to the type of team and bond we've had, and all year that's what it's been is we've won together. Like I made that shot, but I mean, it took so many guys making plays in that game. Um, to win. And
Yeah.
like I said, I'm very grateful that I had the opportunity to take that shot. Um, but I'm not there if Drew Lazar doesn't get that rebound or Trevor even
Yeah.
gets the one before that and gets blocked. So yeah, I mean it definitely is a moment I'll never forget, and I look forward to keep hearing about in the years to come. But I think really what it comes down to is I'm just grateful to be a part of a team that one trusts me so much, and it puts confidence in me, and but two, just to be a part of a team that won. I think that's all I care about really. Is just at the end of the day, I could have scored 0 points. As long as we're national championships, that's the stuff that people remember. And that'll go down
Right.
in history.
We talked about, I mean, two baskets. We talked about two 3-pointers, offensive plays. But at the end of the day, like NYU was averaging 81 points a game, and you hold them to
Yeah.
60 points on the season. You guys are holding opponents to 57 a game, 356 opponent field goal percentage. Those are ridiculous numbers, Henry, when you think of the schedule you guys have played in the
Yeah.
NESCAC and the tournament. Um, the Talk about the defensive identity. That seems to be the identity of the program. Um, how does that come about? Does everyone buy into that when they walk in the door? I know that's not easy to do. How do you build such a defensive minded program and team?
Yeah, well, obviously it starts at the top with Coach Cosgrove. I mean, he's an elite basketball mind and someone who he's a winner, and he knows how the game's played, and it's that's the saying is defense wins championships, and I think it played true for our team this year. But I think one thing that's keep in mind is we got a lot of guys who can do a lot of stuff offensively, and so I
Yep.
think we've been kind of good there all year. But your defense can keep you in the game when you're not making shots. And Coach Cosgrove says all the time is, you can't control making or missing shots. Sometimes they're just not going to go down. But you can control your effort on defense. You can control how much you communicate. You can control how you rebound the ball and box out. And so I think our team really bought into that, knowing that, look, we're not going to make shots every game. Sometimes it's just not going to go down, and that's how the sport is. But we can, go over scout and have an attention to detail when talking about matchups, when talking about, the game like NYU where we might have to double the post, how we might rotate out of that. And that's the stuff that you can control and really focus on where, that can be a constant staple. Some games you saw like in the tournament, like Alabama made however many three,
Yeah.
stuff like that. Some games are going to be like that. Some games you might
Right.
throw everything in, and then some games you might throw nothing in. But you can always play defense and you can always rebound the ball. And, I think for us, we were like, we got enough guys who can make plays on offense. Like that stuff's going to come. But, it really's got to start on defense. And I think defense, gave us our best looks on offense. When we're getting
Yeah.
stops and rebounding the ball and then running in transition, I think that's when our offense is at our best. So just knowing that, we really tried to buy in. And it also helps when you got the personnel that we had. I mean, Jarrel was Defensive Player of the Year in the conference. I mean, he was locking up some of the best players in the NESCAC who are really good players.
Yeah.
But then you also got a guard like Drew Lazar, who's just quick, got great hands. Will Dorian, who's just a monster, just a beast. He's like Superman. And then Tristan Davis is just an elite presence in the paint where, guys are just kind of scared. I mean, he's just a big body dude who can block shots, and he just brings some New York swagger with him that I think we all appreciate. And then even on our bench, David Ailes is a phenomenal defender. Same with Trevor McDowell. I mean, really
Yeah.
everyone who plays for us can defend and switch. And I think that helped us in our lineup was knowing that look, like guys can switch on to Tristan Howe and we'll be all right. He's gonna get his eventually,
Right.
but that's kind of our identity, like you said, is just get stops, rebound the ball, and then the offense will take care of itself.
I got to ask about Coach Cosgrove. I had him on the QCast last year, and then seeing him coach in person last year and this year in Fort Wayne. He's an intense dude. He
Yeah.
is a no nonsense kind of guy. I went back and watched the QCast with him. He's got like a random box in the back. A lot of guys have
Yeah.
these fancy backgrounds on Zoom. He's just got a box over here, old
Yeah.
school office. He is a he's a hardcore guy. What's it like to play for Coach Cosgrove?
Yeah, I mean, I can't say enough how grateful I am for him both as a person and a coach. I mean, one, he's just a great guy. He shows love to everyone in our program, especially after coming back from this win. I mean, he knows, he said it. We had an event today, and he said, it takes a village. We got so many people who help us out, whether it's custodians in the building or whatnot, from top to bottom. So, one, he's just a great person. And really cares about, the guys on the team and, even, our seniors talking about, he's got all sorts of alums hitting him up,
Sure.
interested in, some national champions working and whatnot. But, like I said, he really is a great coach. Because I think he's very, um, he's pretty hardcore, but I think he doesn't overcomplicate things for our players, and I think that helps us go out there and play free. And I think he even said it the last time he was on. Some coaches just try and manipulate too much, especially on offense, where he kind of just lets us go and play. And
Yeah.
like I said, he's a defensive minded coach, and so that's where our identity starts. Is he's the one honest in practice and stuff about like, look, we got to get stops, we got to rebound the ball, and then we can go. But you got to do that first. And yeah, he's pretty hardcore guy, but he brings it. He's as relentless a worker as we have in our program. I mean, he sits in his office watching film for
Right.
hours on end, hours on end. I mean, seriously, I don't know how he sits in there so long. I swear you go in there, he's always in there watching something. But he brings it, he brings it. And he was battling some illness, honestly, on our trip to Fort Wayne. And he just kept fighting and fighting and fighting. And he's our fearless leader, as they say. He definitely leads our program, and I think
Yeah.
he said some stuff before the NYU game in particular that I think really got me and the team fired up to go out there and play. And like I said, I mean, we just wanted to go out there and compete for 40 minutes, and whatever happened happened. But we know if we went out there and played our tails off, that's all you can ask for.
Yeah, I had some other like well-known D3 coaches come up to be like, hey, how was Coach Cosgrove on the QCast? I'm kind of scared to go up and say hi to him. He seems kind of intense.
Yeah.
And so
Well,
he's got an awesome personality. He's
Well,
great.
he is. He really is just ultra competitive and ultra focused. Like he's really the
Yeah,
type. I mean, after we beat Catholic to go to the Final Four. I mean, he literally did not get up on the ladder and cut down the nets from
sure.
the final, and because he literally goes like, "I want to cut down the nets in Fort Wayne," and I said it the other day. I was like, "You probably can't find many coaches." That that say that like literally don't cut down the nets after you just won a sectional championship. And I think that just goes to show like how how much he wanted us to win, but also
Yeah,
how competitive he is. He really always talks about it, especially even after we won the NESCAC championship. That was a great win for our program. Back-to-back NESCAC championships, first time in
yeah,
program history. Um, but he said like, look, like this is a great feeling and we should enjoy it for, tonight and tomorrow. But he's like, there's still some stuff that we can really get done
yeah.
if you guys want to. And I think we all kind of bought into that. And yeah, he does a good job just making sure everyone's bought in. Like I said, like our whole team is together, everyone's bought into our identity. And that starts with him.
Just a couple more questions, and thanks for all your time.
Totally,
I
totally.
wanted to ask about you've done a great job mentioning your teammates. I mentioned that I didn't have you on the all tournament team with 2 minutes to go, and the guy that like I had an all tournament team that had a contingency. It was okay. Hampton Sanders is the MOP if they win,
Yeah.
and Jarrel is the MOP if you win. Jarrel Okorougo, is it O or U at the end of that? How do you say his
It's
last name, Jarrel?
Okorougo.
Okay, you said a lot better than me.
Yeah, yeah.
This dude, Henry, 20-9 in the national championship game. He not only is an incredible defender, he's a physical presence, he's a rebounder, but man, he's a tough shot maker as
Yeah.
well. Like he was awesome. Talk about Jarrell and just how he
Yeah,
played that
well,
last weekend.
honestly, I thought, I mean, I wasn't gonna complain, but Jarrell is definitely, I think, the most outstanding player in that, all tournament really, but especially in that NYU game, like I said, I mean, what he was doing offensively to just keep us. I mean, he scored a third of our points. I mean, to keep us alive. And yeah, like I said, he's a tough shot maker. And he's one of those guys where you watch him and you might not think it's the best shot, but I think everyone on our team knows, especially seeing him in practice, like, he makes those a lot and he makes them at a high. I mean, 9 for 13 on a
Yeah.
lot of tough shots is super impressive. And so what he does for us just defensively, but like he's a great cutter. Like he's someone where
Yeah.
I know anytime I get to the paint or pick up my dribble, he's probably right there ready to catch the ball and go score it. And I kind of just drop it off to him and let him go do what he does. But he's a great player. Both ends of the ball. I think Drew Lazarre is also
Yeah.
another really good player. Um, and I thought he should have gotten some more recognition, both all region and even all American. He's someone that really he guards, really good guards, but he
Yep.
rebounds like a five man. I mean, he's had multiple double doubles this year, and I think people see it as he jumps out the gym, but he can really hunt the basketball down. And really our whole team, I think, I wish I could give shout outs to everyone. I mean, I
Yeah.
think everyone on our team, like Jared Berry off the bench is one of the, he's easily probably one of the best bench scorers in the country at any level. And in a lot of other programs, he could score probably close to 20 points a game, I bet, if he was the number one option. But he's someone who knows that, but bought into our team and really played a crucial role, especially in that second unit. Scoring the ball. And, we got other guys who, on that second unit, like David Ailes, who knows, like, hey, like Jared's a guy who can score. So, like, let me facilitate and get him the ball.
Right.
That's really our whole team. Like, Will Dorian, his numbers might not jump at you all the time, but he's as crucial a part as anyone on our team because you need someone who's, not going to take the most shots, but is willing to go out there and play his butt off, knowing that. And, I just can't say enough about really everyone on our team buying into that and knowing that, look, like I might not do what this guy does, but I bring something else. And, that's really what you need
Right.
to have a championship level team at any level in any sport, honestly, is you need people to like, be bought in about like, look, I might not get certain individual recognitions, but, my team's going to win a
Right.
national championship. And I think, for all our guys, it feels way better knowing that paid off because, like I said, a lot of guys sacrificed a lot of individual accolades and achievements in order for the success of the team. And, I'm just super grateful to be a part of, guys who were willing to do that. It's not easy all the time. Like it's not easy to
Right.
see, and I feel it, I take a lot of shots. So I know guys might, feel some way sometimes, but those guys, instead of complaining, are, out there making me better in practice, out there,
Sure.
fueling me with confidence. And, that stuff matters. And I know that's the stuff that I'll remember more so than who scored points or, all the other stuff that most people like to talk about.
I would say just watching your team. I mean, it's a team that plays together incredibly well. It's incredibly balanced. It's hard to figure out who the best player on your team is. If someone asks like who's the best player, I'd have no idea how to answer that.
Yeah.
It's a balanced team and tough, like tough, competitive guys. And it was great to see a national championship won via toughness, defense, playing together, trusting each other. Just a great lesson for everyone around Division III in college basketball and what it takes to build a winner. Got to ask you before I let you go just about like high school recruiting.
Yeah.
You're a good person to ask this, Henry. You've got kids right now in the class of 25 in high school. Here we are heading into April. We're late March. They're going to have to make their final decisions pretty soon. They're getting recruited by a lot of schools. You're going to have the class of 26 starting to get recruited now.
Yeah.
Advice for high school kids, Henry, that are getting recruited by great D3s, maybe some D2s, maybe a D1 is sniffing around. Like
Yeah.
what's important to kids in making their decision, Henry? What should these kids focus on in trying to sort out their options?
Yeah, well, I think, they say it all the time is you want to go somewhere where you're wanted and, feel valued. I think one of the worst situations people make is, they like think a place is attractive because it's like cool or it's got a certain like aura about it or energy about the school. And then they get there and, they're not playing the role they want to play or they're not doing this or that. And so I think, you really just got to focus on, what do you want? Like if you want to be a part of a really good culture and winning team, then you need to find that. And sometimes you might not find that at some of those lower Division I schools because they're
Yeah,
they're just not, going to compete as at high of a level winning wise. And I think for me, I always focus on like I want to be surrounded by guys. I love basketball, so I wanted to be surrounded by a team full of guys who love basketball. And I can't say at every Division III school, every guy likes it as much as we do here at Trinity. Like I
right.
just know that for a fact. But when I came on my visits and when I played with the team, a lot of guys on the weekends in their free time, we're talking about, going in the gym and, getting up shots, organizing our own pickup run, not having coach tell us what to do. And so I think, if you're really serious about it, you want to find a school and, find people that, share those passions with you. And I'm not going to act like every guy on our team loves it just as much as the next guy, but when it's a common interest and, people have their own, tendencies outside of, we got dudes on our team who are into business, into analytics, all sorts of different, and that stuff's cool. It's cool to be a part of a team that has different interests and, people can kind of, share their own like little, facades or whatever. But when, you go somewhere where people really, share a common goal like you or share a common interest, that's super enjoyable. And I think for me, that's, what I said is like, even if, we had lost that game, I think just knowing I was surrounded by a team, full of guys who one, like really wanted to win and really bought in. But two, went out there and played for each other, like that's a win in itself. And, that's, just as important as winning the actual game is knowing you did it with, guys that you can call your brothers and guys that you love. So, like I said, I'm super grateful for that. But I'd say definitely, go somewhere where you feel connected to the people around you. You feel like there's a
Right.
genuine, shared interest and shared goal. And that like I said, that win lose or draw, that's always a win for you personally because you're around like-minded people and around people that are going to elevate both you as a player, but as a person too. I think a lot of what I've learned this year, winning this applies to like life, like
Yeah.
there's tons of team sports, in the business world. These you got presentations, even in the classroom, you got to work with a lot of people in your life, and so to being on a team sets you up well for that, and especially being on a winning team because winners win in life.
It's really well said. And I love when I have the student athletes on to ask them that question because there's so many insightful answers that can really help kids as they're trying to sort this really tough landscape out of recruiting nowadays. Um, I'll ask for your final thoughts here in a second. I'll just say, Henry, I really appreciate your time. I know how busy it is trying to get back into the swing of
Yeah.
stuff and finishing out a school year. It was a real pleasure to watch your team play. Like you guys are really a tough group, and I feel like it's kind of what it should be about. The way you play together, the defense, the things I just mentioned a few minutes ago. You guys were awesome to watch, and you even when it looked like NYU up four there, you always felt like this is a team that's not going to give up. So let's see what happens, and then boom. So kudos, congratulations to you, to Coach Cosgrove and his staff, to your teammates, everyone at Trinity College. What would you, Henry, leave us with on the QCast? Well, we hope to have Bantam Nation
Yeah.
tuning in. We're gonna the DataCast dudes will be turning in. They were
Yeah, yeah. I'm
they were
excited for
happy to
them.
know that, like, I think they said Trinity, the computer had Trinity winning, so they had a
Yeah.
little bit of a W. But what would you leave us with today, Henry,
Yeah,
on
I,
the
I
QCast?
probably got like two things to say. One, I just want to shout out a couple of my teammates, Paul Ippolito, Marley Stewart, Bengali Barrett, and Sam Norris. Those are guys who might not always, play a lot of minutes, but I think those guys are, super critical to our success as a
Sure.
team and are great players. I mean, Paul Ippolito is a big a gym rat as we have on our team, and I think when you see someone who's not playing in the gym as much as he is, I mean that's big time. I mean you're talking about
Sure.
guys on the bench motivating starters. I mean he motivates me sometimes, and I like to think I'm in there a good amount. So I just can't say enough about really everyone on our team, but I just want to shout out those guys because they might not show up on the box score all the time, but they mean a lot. And then I think our team does, we appreciate what you do for D3 Hoops, Bob. We just want to say you got to give the NESCAC a little more love next
I knew
year.
this was coming,
Well,
Henry.
I,
I knew
well,
I was going to get it.
well, we know you're a big CCIW guy, and like I said, I know Illinois Wesleyan's a good program. They're a good team. Just keep the NESCAC in mind next year because we got some hoopers over here
I
holding down
know it, man. I know it.
I know. I'm not saying you're sliding us. Just keep us in mind, and hopefully we'll get the benefit of the doubt. But we do appreciate a lot of us tune in on obviously social media and on X and stuff, and you and the DataCast guys are they make some good content, and it's cool to see what you guys do for D3 Hoops. So we
Uh,
appreciate it. But yeah, thanks for having me on. And like I said, I'm glad that you saw it out there on the court because I really think that's kind of what prevailed. As I think we were just honestly just the most together team in the country and probably the toughest team in the country, and I think that's why we won is we had so many guys playing for each other, playing for our program. And like I said, it takes everyone from top to bottom, from first guy off the on the in the starters to last guy on the bench. I mean, we took everyone on our team, so I can't say enough about how grateful I am to be a part of that team. And we're able to say we're national champions now, so it all worked out. But thank you for having me on.
I loved having you on, and I always am in a tenuous position with the NESCAC. I'm always kind of in between trouble and not being in
No,
trouble.
I know. Oh,
You
I'm
know,
not saying you got to give love. You got a favor. I'm just saying, just keep an eye out for us next year. I think we'll keep making some noise. So just keep that in mind.
I
And
mean, next year you guys return most of this team, correct?
yeah, well, yeah, a lot of this team, and we got some, like I said, some guys who didn't play much this year who are going to be ready to step up and hopefully keep things rolling. We'll enjoy it for a little bit of this spring, and then we'll start up some postseason workouts and get back after
Here's
it.
what I'll commit to you, Henry. Is right now. I'm committing to my preseason ballot. It'll be in October. Trinity will be my number one for sure on my preseason. I remember last year when you guys beat Calvin. I remember my guy Poppers.
Yeah.
He's texting me. He's like, dude, these Trinity guys they're looking for you right now, Q. Like these guys are on your ass. And then this year after this win, people are like, hey, Q, you had us ranked too low. Henry, you guys are number one preseason on my ballot until there's some reason not to vote you number one. Is that fair?
Is a legend.
Whoops, I think I cut out for 1 second there.
No, you're good. I can hear you now.
You said shout out to Poppers, I believe, correct?